My name is Dave Bradley. I'm in that gang of scouts you see there. We're all at the station to catch the train to the Jamboree at Valley Forge. The Jamboree is some story. And this isn't the real beginning of it either. It really started last winter when we began saving our nickels and dimes, getting our stuff in good condition, and then packing up for the big day. Well, it's finally here. Yeah, the first chapter's over. Now comes the best part. Boy, were we glad we made it. Congratulations! You know, a train is a great place for singing. The wheels keep time for you, and the racket makes anybody's voice sound good. These fellas are making neckerchief slides. They made good ones, too. Good swapping material. Here's a big swapping session. That's me up on the left there, and the little fella next to me is Walter Mosher. We're from the same troop. Boy, we never saw so many emblems. The guys had 1,000,000 of them. Ah, this was fun. Did you ever eat on a train? You have to be awful careful or you'll have your milk in your lap. I like it, though. It's different. There were a lot of things to see even before we got to the Jamboree. This is the famous horseshoe curve. That's our engine way over there. Yep, we're in Pennsylvania now. Walter and I had never been out of our state before. Now all of a sudden we've been through 4 states. Sure is a big country. About 4 o'clock the second day, our train stopped at a little depot in Pennsylvania. Yeah, it was Valley Forge. We were here. There were 600 fellas in our train, and somebody told us over 200 trains unloaded at this station alone. So we had to get moving. Trains were coming in all the time. Jamboree, here we come. At first it was like any hike back home, but pretty soon there were differences. First we saw a fort, then a flag with 13 stars, and then a log cabin. That must be Valley Forge, all right. But where's the Jamboree? Then we got our first look. Look at the tents. Oh, brother. Maybe you thought the Boy Scouts of America isn't big. And we're not all here yet. Come on, let's get a look at our sections. Here's how it looked to us coming down Quarry Road. Most of the other sections around us were almost finished. They look pretty good. But wait until they see our camp. Boy, that was a hike. Glad we didn't have to carry our stuff. Here come some more fellows in buses. No hiking for these guys. Pretty soft. How do you rate? There's our campsite, right on the side of that hill. That's where we'll live for 7 days. Everything went pretty smoothly, right from the start. I could see now why our pre-jam training was important. We were more or less strangers to each other, but we knew how to work together and get things done. And things were done a million different ways at the Jamboree according to taste. Now, Walter likes this kind of bed, but he couldn't remember how to make this lashing. So I helped him out and gave him a hand. We had lumber to build tables for eating our meals and writing those letters home. Plenty of straw for mattresses. And a lot of good ideas to make things convenient. I think a lot of parents would be surprised if they could see this. The Army supplied us with blister bags for our water supply. Frankly, it didn't taste so good, but it was pure, and it was wet. We had to find time for our physical recheck. Everybody came through with a clean bill of health. It was about then that the flag went up at the commissary tent. That means come and get it. On the way back from the commissary, we had a chance to see some of the other fellows setting up. These scouts go for teepees. And here we saw the world's tallest scout. How's the air up there? Well, our camp is just about done, and here comes the food. It's time to start cooking our first Jamboree supper. It ought to be good. We've got plenty of cooks. While supper was cooking, we had our first patrol council. By planning everything on a patrol basis, we all did our share of the work, and we all had our share of fun. Everything worked out fine and no gripes. After supper, we finished our gateway. Yep, we were ready. And from our hilltop, it looked like the whole Jamboree was set for the official opening tomorrow. 47,000 scouts and scout leaders had come from every state in the Union, Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and 22 foreign countries to build a jamboree. Here are the results of their skills. Here's what scouts can accomplish when they get together to do a job. "10 o'clock the next morning, the jamboree was officially opened. I helped get the breakfast dishes out of the way and got over to General Headquarters just in time to see the band march up the avenue of flags. Scouts from the 22 foreign countries were there to raise their flags, too. And that's how the jamboree began. Seeing all those flags made you kind of glad there are still so many nations that believe in what scouting stands for. That night at the opening ceremony, we were reminded of some of the things that make scouting possible in America. Our first big thrill came in seeing 47,000 scouts march on to the grand parade. Walking four abreast, it still took us almost an hour to get to our places. Our next thrill was meeting the president. Then President Hilton decorated the President of the United States with the Silver Buffalo. That's the Scouts' highest award. In his speech, the President said that in some parts of the world, the minds of youths are being poisoned with distrust and hatred. He said he was sure we would do our best to work for freedom and peace, with the same faith that inspired Washington here at Valley Forge. Then, for the first time, I knew what the history books meant when they spoke of the suffering of Washington's army at Valley Forge in the winter of '77, because we suddenly saw it all right before us. We saw Washington and his army as they straggled into the valley, retreating from defeat at Brandywine and Germantown. There were the cannons of General Knox, and the supply wagons practically empty. What an army, torn, bleeding, hungry and cold. How could an army like this save a nation? Christmas was just another day. The campfires weren't enough to drive off the cold, and the men needed more than Christmas carols to protect them from disease and starvation. The general walked among them, and his kindly face grew grim and set. And without a glance about him, Washington sank to his knee in prayer. Give us daily bread of both food and spirit, that we may restore peace, liberty, and safety to this colony. Somehow, things seemed to get better after that. Food, guns, and new uniforms began to arrive. The men's spirits rose. And then there was a rumor, just a bit of gossip, then a hope, a prayer, and finally a reality. The long-awaited news arrived by courier. The French fleet and army were on the way. The French alliance had been signed. They had a month to get equipment in top shape, to check every gun and shell, finish the training of every man. Then on June 19th, 1778, Washington led his men from the valley. He caught the British at Monmouth and drove them out of New Jersey for the final victory and the end of the war. And then 35 scouts, one from every section in the Jamboree, lit their torches in the campfires of the Continental Army. And they carried them to every campfire in every corner of the encampment. As the Continental Army crusaded, so shall the scouts crusade to hold high the torch of liberty. The fellows seemed to have more interest in Valley Forge next morning. It was a good time to take our tour. We saw the abatis built by the Continental Army. Abatis, that's the equivalent of today's barbed wire entanglements. And then we saw General Knox's artillery. We wondered how his men could even hit the side of a barn, let alone win a war with cannons like these. Here's the statue of Mad Anthony Wayne, one of Washington's best generals. And Washington's headquarters. This is the actual house. Everywhere we saw the graves of the soldiers, most of them unknown, but every one marked with a flag. The memorial arch is there to always remind us of what they fought for. One of the things they fought for was freedom of worship. Sunday morning we saw 40,000 scouts enjoy that freedom at the same time under the same sky. The Protestant services were held here at the bottom of the Grand Parade, where Washington's men celebrated the news of the French alliance. The sermon was preached by Bishop Raines. At the same time, on the surrounding hillsides, the other great faiths held their services. There's Rabbi Aryeh Lev speaking at the Jewish services. Bishop Leach read the Catholic Mass. And nearby were the Mormons. That's Elder Benson speaking. I guess nowadays it's pretty hard to find many countries where so many different faiths can be taught under one flag. Our fellow started out to visit some of the other sections and see how scouts in other parts of the country do things. How do you like this gateway? The fellows in this section are from California. They brought plenty of souvenirs with them, but not for swapping. I can imagine what Walter's mother would say if he brought home a skull. Or some of the animals we saw. Like armadillos, for instance. Maybe she wouldn't mind some gold dust, though. These fellows from the West had the real thing. Walter thought these scouts were real Indians until he got up close. Guess they won't need a haircut for a long time. That Indian represents an evil spirit in this dance. Well, that's the end of him. Now watch these fellas from Oklahoma. They're real handy with bullwhips. This big fella must have been born with a whip in his hand. This next trick takes a keen eye, a steady hand, and a brave volunteer. Wow! We must have hiked 1,000 miles that first day. First thing we did when we got back to camp was jump into the showers. And jump right out again. It was cold. That night we gathered in convocation to think about the development of freedom of religion in America. We saw the Pilgrims again, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Washington and the Rabbi, and Lincoln at Gettysburg. All of the milestones passed on the way to freedom of religion. Then 12 scouts lit their candles in the flame, and suddenly there were almost 50,000 candles burning on the hillside, each one in the hands of a scout with promise to keep burning the flame of freedom to worship God. Next day, we did some more sightseeing. Here's a good-looking gateway made of pack baskets. When it came to making things, there was plenty of talent everywhere. Here's something different. This explorer made a relief map of the country around Valley Forge. He made it out of plaster and then colored it with ink. He used it to show how Washington's army and the enemy ambushed each other, and where they marched and fought. He sure knew his history, and he sure knew how to make relief maps. Then we visited the Rainbow Troop from Canada, and met a couple of scouts who liked to do things the hard but interesting way. One explorer pedaled his bike all the way from Saskatoon, 2,300 miles. And the explorer with the Indian neckerchief slide came from beyond the Arctic Circle. Of course, seeing everything at the Jamboree took a lot of walking. And on top of that, you had to carry plenty of ammunition for swapping. Never could tell when you'd meet someone with something to swap that was super. These Tar Heels from Louisiana were experts. One of them was nicknamed Deep Freeze. We met scouts who were interested in every kind of subject you can think of. From rope making, weaving, carving, map reading, and camping. even atomic power. Now, there's a tough subject, but the fellows from Oak Ridge had it down pat. They had the whole story. Our guide sure knew his molecules and atoms. When it's explained right, it's not too hard to get. We got it, I think. That's a Geiger counter he has there. When you hold a detector next to something that's radioactive, you hear a clicking sound in the earphone. The jamboree was full of music. These scouts didn't forget to bring their ukes from Hawaii. In fact, they carried them wherever they went. Music is like bread and butter to a Hawaiian. Guess we like music too, because wherever the Hawaiians went, they drew a crowd. This isn't as funny as you think. My sister has a hat just like that one. I don't think you'll ever see a bigger or more exciting show or hear a more thrilling story than the one we did at the Jam on the 4th of July. The signing of the Declaration of Independence was a signal to begin building America. The Indians still lived in the greater part of the country, hunting and planting as they always had. Here he's preparing for the hunt in the buffalo hunting dance. When the pioneers arrived, the peaceful Indians helped them. The prospectors came, the Pony Express, and then the cattlemen and the cowboys. It was a time of hard work for everybody, but there was time for fun, too. With the frontier established, the next step was to join the East with the West. Men laid the rails that signaled the coming of the Iron Horse. The Golden Spike was driven, and East and West were joined. It called for a monster celebration. It was the spirit and the skills of the pioneers that built America. It stands to reason that if this spirit is preserved, America will remain strong. So today there is a band of young Americans pledged to carry on the spirit that made our country great. Their motto is, be prepared. 2 million strong, they daily practice the skills of their forefathers. They're the Boy Scouts of America. The skills of our forefathers are with us today as our scouts camp on the trail, as he builds towers to watch over forests and get the message through. They build bridges, they swing a man-sized axe, and they build strong bodies. Yes, and they have fun, too. Fun for fun's sake, as the relays and the circle games become builders of the body and the spirit. Are those skills put to use? What happens in an emergency? Are scouts ready to go to the rescue? Just watch. Yes, the drop of a hat, the modern-day crusader, the scout, is ready to serve when he may be called. But every day there are those who would exchange our liberty for other ideologies and isms. It's a challenge Americans meet every day. The answer to that challenge is the Scout Code of Honor and the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and good luck to each of you.
That was General Dwight Eisenhower speaking. His address brought the show to its end. And then we saw the biggest show of fireworks that ever was. It was a thrill to see reenactments of historical events at the Jam, but it was an even bigger one to see the places where some of them actually happened here in Philadelphia. Guess I don't have to tell you anything about the things we saw. They're all in our history books, but not everybody gets to see them. We felt pretty darn lucky. There's Betsy Ross's house. And the flag with 13 stars. And Christ Church, where Washington, Hancock, and Adams worshiped regularly. Carpenter's Hall is where the Continental Congress met. And here's Independence Hall, where we saw the Liberty Bell. I got a snapshot of Walter in Independence Square. This was the first time a lot of us had ever been in a town as big as Philadelphia. So the last thing we did was to take a joyride on the subway. Walt didn't like it, though. No scenery. The last day of the Jam, we really wore out the shoe leather. We got to see some more Indian dancers. And we finally got over to the international section, where we met this scout from England. They were serving tea and biscuits. His patrol was reviewed by the King and Queen, and he had a picture to prove it. We stayed to hear a bagpipe concert. These fellows are from Canada. So on we walked and walked and walked some more. There was more swapping going on than ever. Last chance. Seems like a ground squirrel is worth more than one horned toad. There were a lot of visitors the last day. A lot of them didn't know scouting was so big and that feet can get so tired. Here's one of our trading posts. This is where I made more new friends than anywhere else. Funny how people get to talking when they're buying things. there's another swapping session. A lot of Cub Scouts came to visit, too. The ones I talked to sure are waiting for the next jam. When we got back to camp, we met another visitor. It was the Chief Scout Executive, Dr. Shuck. He just wanted to know if we were having fun. The fact is, I don't know how you could pack more fun into 7 short days. The closing ceremony told a story every scout should remember. Since the world was born, the story of man has been one of strife between good and evil. Yet the cry of the common man has been, "Let me build a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man." He built huts, igloos, teepees, cottages, and log cabins, and he tried to build a bridge of friendship to span the nations in world brotherhood. Many times the bridge has been nearly swept away by war and darkness, but still it stands, because the builders have struggled on, always building. The purpose of this jamboree has been to strengthen the trusses of that bridge, to make it possible for scouts of many lands to reaffirm their belief in world brotherhood by playing, working, and building together. By building for world friendship and understanding, we will succeed in our crusade to strengthen the arm of liberty throughout the world.
Let the flags and the youth of all lands mingle in friendship and unity and brotherhood.
That was the message we got at the closing ceremony. The jamboree was almost over. Our next troop meeting back home was all jamboree. The fellas had a million questions. Walter and I took our souvenirs to the meeting, and it must have taken an hour to show them all. We told them about the fellows we met, what they were like, things they talked about, and what they liked to do. Our assistant scoutmaster said it didn't sound like they were much different from us. Well, I know that's so for a fact. Walt showed off the knife and scabbard he traded away from a fellow out west. The guys thought it was a pretty good swap. They didn't go for that piccolo he brought home, though. But they did go for our stories of what we did, the people we met, and things we saw. What I'll always remember is our camp on the side of the hill in Valley Forge.